At 5 years old, Elijah faced his first taste of hatred. He and Clara went to a toy store downtown, drawn in by the colorful train set in the window. Elijah pressed his nose against the glass, eyes wide with wonder. Inside, he reached for the train. The clerk, a tall white man with a scowl etched into his face, snatched it away. "Get your hands off that, boy. You people don't belong in here." Clara pulled Elijah close and left without a word. "Mama, why did he yell?" "I didn't break it." Clara knelt. "Because he's scared, baby. Scared of your skin, scared of your light. But never let that make you feel small." That night, Elijah cried himself to sleep. Not because of the toy, but because something inside him cracked. It was the first time he felt the invisible wall the world had built around him. Change arrived in whispers. In May 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Brown v. Board of Education that segregation in public schools was unconstitutional. Elijah's parents listened to the radio in stunned silence. "Does that mean Elijah can go to the white school?" Clara asked. Harold shook his head. "The law says yes. The people still say no." Across the South, white families erupted in protest. State leaders vowed to resist. But in Elijah's town, a new chapter had been quietly opened. And it was only a matter of time before it touched their lives. It came in a plain white envelope with a government seal. Elijah had been selected to integrate the all-white Jefferson Elementary School. Clara read the letter aloud, her voice trembling. Harold clenched his fists. "They'll hate him," Clara whispered. "They already do," Harold replied. "But maybe, this is how it ends." Elijah looked up from the floor. "Will they have books with pictures?" Clara smiled through tears. "Yes, baby. Books, crayons, maybe even a music room. But also people who don't want you there," Harold finished. "Are you ready for that, son?" Elijah nodded. "I'm ready." Chapter 5, The Night Before the Walk. CX change arrived in whispers. In May 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Brown v. Board of Education that segregation in public schools was unconstitutional. Elijah's parents listened to the radio in stunned silence. "Does that mean Elijah can go to the white school?" Clara asked. Harold shook his head. "The law says yes. The people still say no." Across the South, white families erupted in protest. State leaders vowed to resist. But in Elijah's town, a new chapter had been quietly opened, and it was only a matter of time before it touched their lives. The next morning, 4 U.S. Marshals arrived. Elijah wore his cleanest shirt and a face full of quiet resolve. Protesters had already gathered outside the school. Hundreds of white men and women, shouting, spitting, throwing things. A woman held up a tiny coffin with a black doll inside. Elijah's hands trembled. "Don't look at them," one marshal whispered. "Look at the door." Step by step, Elijah walked forward. Through hate, through fire. He did not cry. Inside, the school was silent. Empty. No children. No teachers. Just one woman waiting at the classroom door. "I'm Ms. Thompson," she said. "And you must be Elijah. Come in." Chapter 7, The Empty Classroom. The room had 30 desks. Only one was occupied. Ms. Thompson taught as if every seat were filled. She never raised her voice. She never showed pity. At recess, Elijah sat alone. He stared out the window at the empty playground. "I miss my old school," he whispered. "I know," she said. "But one day, this will be your playground too." Chapter 8, Hate in the Hallways. Whispers. Slurs. Sharp glances. He walked through the hall and felt eyes pierce his skin. He was shoved near the lockers. He didn't tell Ms. Thompson. Didn't want to make her sad. At home, Clara noticed his silence. You're quiet. They don't want me there. That's why you have to be there, she said. Because one day, someone like you will walk in, and the hate will be gone. One day, a girl peeked through the door. Her name was Lucy. Blonde hair, curious eyes. She didn't speak. Just dropped a red crayon on his desk and ran. The next day, she stayed longer. On the third day, she said, "Hi." Elijah smiled. It was the first time in weeks. He drew a picture of two kids under the same sun. He gave it to Lucy. She kept it. Reporters came. They called him the boy who walked through fire. Elijah didn't understand the fuss. He just wanted to read books with pictures. His family received hate mail. A rock broke their window. Still, every morning, Elijah put on his clean shirt and walked to school. His father kissed his forehead. They can't stop you unless you let them. I won't, Elijah said. That day, two white students entered the classroom. Lucy sat beside him. Ms. Thompson started the lesson. Outside, the crowd had thinned. Inside, something had changed. Elijah looked around and smiled. He wasn't alone anymore. The world was listening. He had taken the first step. And it shook the world. Elijah returned to school the next day with cautious hope in his chest. Two white students sat quietly in the corner. No one spoke to him, but they didn't leave. Lucy smiled. Ms. Thompson began the lesson as usual, her voice steady and warm. Elijah raised his hand. So did one of the new kids. For the first time, it felt like a real class. At lunch, he still ate alone. But he noticed the stares had softened. And when one boy from the hallway whispered, "Hey," and quickly looked away, Elijah smiled to himself. A crack in the wall. Ms. Thompson grew more protective of Elijah, though she never treated him with pity. She challenged him with harder books, asked his opinion, and encouraged his drawings. You see the world in colors others are too afraid to notice, she said. He gave her a picture of their classroom, colored bright and full. Someday, every desk will be filled, he told her. Hate mail didn't stop. Threats scrawled in red ink. Calls in the middle of the night. But there were also letters from across the country. Children wrote to Elijah, "You are brave. You are our hero." One letter came from a girl in Chicago. My school's still all white. I wish you were here. His mother saved every kind word in a shoebox. Harold lost his job quietly one morning. The train station said they didn't need cleaners anymore. Everyone knew why. He came home, sat on the porch, and stared at the gravel. Elijah stood beside him. I'm sorry, the boy whispered. Harold put a hand on his shoulder. Don't be. Your fight is mine. I just wear a different uniform. One day, Elijah entered class to find 3 new students, 2 boys and a girl, already seated. They didn't flinch when he sat nearby. At recess, Lucy walked beside him. You're not scary, she said. He laughed. I'm just a kid. Yeah, she said. But a really important one. The local newspaper asked to interview Elijah. At first, his parents refused. But Elijah wanted to speak. The headline read, I just want to learn. In the article, he said, I don't hate anyone. I just want a desk and a pencil, like everybody else. The world listened. Inspired by Elijah's story, other towns began integrating. Some students walked with marshals. Others faced bricks, mobs, and violence. But one by one, they came. Children. Teachers. Parents. Walking through fear. Elijah saw their faces in newspapers. I'm not alone anymore, he said. Years passed. Elijah entered middle school, then high school. The hate faded, but never vanished. He was still watched, still judged. But also admired. He joined the debate club. He read speeches by Dr. King. He wrote essays about justice. He walked into rooms once closed to kids like him. At 17, Elijah was invited to speak at Jefferson Elementary. The school was different now. Children of all colors filled the halls. Laughter replaced silence. A mural of him hung near the entrance. Below it, "Courage is the first step to change." Tears filled his eyes. He had walked through fire. Now others danced where he once bled. Chapter 20, A Letter to the Future. As an adult, Elijah became a teacher. In his classroom, every child was equal. Every name mattered. One afternoon, he wrote a letter to the students of tomorrow. Dear child. If you're reading this, know that you belong. Always. Even when others say you don't. I walked so you could run. And when you run, run with your head high. Because the world only changes when someone takes the first step. Yours in hope. Elijah. In a quiet classroom filled with laughter, books, and sunlight, Elijah, now Mr. Reed, smiles as his students work. A young girl raises her hand. Mr. Reed, is it true you were the first? He nods. I was the first to walk through that door. But you, he gestures to the whole class, you're the reason it stayed open. Outside, the world still wrestles with old shadows. But inside that room, change had already won.